Hey everybody, welcome back to the farm. This is Lisa and welcome back all of our subscribers. And we have had a bunch of new subscribers, so I want to say welcome. We're glad that you are with us on this journey. In 2020, we started our journey to increase our self-sufficiency with everything going on in the world. We all know how that was going. So we now have what we affectionately call our 2-acre farm. We use the freeze dryer because that's a part of our journey, and that is making sure that we have food on our shelves and make sure that we're preserving the food that we can. We also do some gardening, and we also do a wide range of things, like I said, because it's about our journey. So what we want to do is just clue you in onto what we're about. So let's get going with today's video. So recently, I posted a video on lasagna soup in a jar, and it was using freeze-dried ingredients, and we got some really positive feedback on it. So thank you so much. It was really delicious. Now, how many times do you see a recipe on the internet and you think to yourself, that sounds so good, and then it's terrible, right? So the reason why I'm posting this video is I have been drawn to the meals in a jar thing because I am not a fan of cooking. So meals in a jar for me mean that I can have my pantry stocked with some good food made from good ingredients, and yet all I have to do is add water and maybe a little extra and I'm good to go. Again, back to those recipes on the internet, what you're going to see here is reality. If you watch the lasagna soup, Ryan told me he didn't like the green onion substitution I made. So we keep it real. The soup was absolutely amazing. But today we are making potato, sausage, and cheese casserole meal in a jar. I see it everywhere and I am trying this out. So the last thing you want to do is spend all that time and money freeze drying, prepping, buying ingredients if you have to, and then have it turn out terrible. The last thing you want on your pantry shelf are horrible meals. So I always try one jar out to make sure I like it. And then from there, if I like it, we decide if we're going to keep it or not. Then I make a bunch of jars. Let's get freeze drying. So these two trays are sausage that I have browned in a pan. And then here is some mozzarella and some cheddar cheese. And then I have an onion because that is part of the ingredients. So these are not frozen. These are just on the trays, ready to go. I'm starting this and then I'm letting the freeze dryer do the work overnight. So I just opened the vent and I want to check and see if we need more dryer time, which we probably do. I think to be safe, I will give it extra dry time. All right, so extra dry time is completed. So I'm going to get these out and put these on the table and show you what we got. So here's my mozzarella and my cheddar, my onions, and my sausage that was cooked. Let's get the jar put together. Here are the ingredients that I'm going to put in the jar, and it's a cup of freeze-dried cooked sausage, a third of a cup sour cream powder. I have buttermilk powder. I don't happen to have sour cream powder, and it's hard for me to find here, so I'm going to go with that. I have a tablespoon of the freeze-dried onions. I kind of mash them up and put them in there, so there's some powder and there's some pieces. I also added a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of black pepper, and I added a heaping teaspoon of ranch seasoning, which is something that I wanted to add to the recipe. There's also 2 cups of shredded potatoes. And our last ingredient is cheese powder. Now, instead of cheese powder, I'm going to use the mozzarella cheese, and I'm going to kind of break that up and put that in the jar for the cheese powder part, and then I'm going to add this on top when we put it in the casserole dish. So let's put it all together. Again, keep in mind, I'm gonna show you how to fill the jar, but I'm not gonna seal it for the purposes of this video. The way you do that is you put all the ingredients in the jar. You should be wearing gloves, and it should be a sterile jar, and then you would put an oxygen absorber on top, and then you would put a mason jar lid on top and vacuum seal the jar. But again, for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna show you how to put it in the jar, and then I'm gonna actually take it out and cook it. And here's the potatoes. This is what your jar would sound like when you open it. Oops. 1 cup of sausage. And I'm going to give the jar a shake to settle it in. And you would definitely want to leave a headspace. So again, normally you would put an oxygen absorber in your jar, put the lid on, and then you would vac seal it. So now it's time to prepare it. And so here's the jar that we had earlier. And like I said, I didn't vac seal it because I was planning on preparing it. I had just showed you with the oxygen absorber. So what we're going to do is dump the contents of the jar in the dish, which is it should be a 9 by 13. I only have an 11 by something. And I decided, since these potatoes, I'm just going to dump in here extra, just because I really won't use them in that amount. So what I'm going to do is just give it a mix around. But if you had a 9 by 13 dish, you would not need to add extra potatoes. I just did that because I had these here. And so now what I'm going to do is add 5 cups of hot water and let it soak. So I'm just making sure everything's covered, or everything is soaking. And then what I'm going to do is a little different. Like I said earlier, is I'm going to put the cheese, the cheddar cheese, on top. And of course, we're going to let this sit for 10 minutes, and then we're going to bake it in a 375 degrees Fahrenheit oven for 20 to 25 minutes until it is all heated through and bubbly. And we'll see how it turns out. I wanted to give you a better shot before I bring you back from the oven, so that's what it looks like. So there is how it looks. I think it looks good. Let's give it a taste.
Not bad for a meal in a jar. It tastes pretty good. The only thing I prefer more sausage in it, but that would be about all I'd have to say. It tastes pretty good.
I think I would double up the sausage, and I would add some vegetables to it to give it more sustenance. And I think that it would also be good with less water and cooking time, like I had talked about a minute ago.
Yeah, yep. I think the cooking time here is a little different because of our altitude.
Yep.
But overall, it's a pretty good meal.
All right, guys, so there you have it. Definitely test your recipes out before you make all these jars to put away in your pantry. I can't emphasize that enough. I would definitely reduce the water. I'll put the recipe down below. and try some of the suggestions, you know, we just gave you. I think it would give it a little more to it, a little more substance to it. So, but I think overall it was a really good meal, and I'm really proud that the sausage came from our farm and the potatoes came from our farm. So, and I was really impressed with how the cheese melted on the top of the casserole, considering it was freeze dried. So that's a win. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.